I remember as a 13-year-old desperately spending all day flicking and throwing my bow on the string, trying to do this stroke. And I just always wish someone could have given me a sequential series of instructions. Hello, my name is Robin Wilson, and I'm Professor of Violin at the Royal Academy of Music in London and the Yehudi Menuhin School. Like spiccato, the hand must only be balancing the bow, not holding it with a thumb, and be very, very soft. Like spiccato, we start with windscreen wipers. So we're really feeling now that the bow is bouncing, rebounding, if you like, off the string. The difference with spiccato is now I'm focused on my arm being slightly more still and there being a rotation of my forearm. So a supination as the rebound occurs. Then we add a small down bow direction and let the bow bounce on its own as much as it likes. So I'm just throwing the bow on the string with that windscreen wiper action, but also playing a down bow at the same time. And then I'm not applying any weight after it's landed, so I'm letting that bow do all the jumping. This really gives us a sense of the flexibility and resilience of the stick. So really try to get a feeling when you're doing this of dropping the bow and releasing all the control. Let the stick do it for you. Experiment with where in the bow to drop so you feel you get the optimum bounce back. The higher in the bow, the faster the ricochet. And the lower in the bow, the slower the bounce. So we need to find that optimum part of the bow where we feel the bow is jumping easily. Then we try to add a little weight to the index finger to start controlling the number of bounces. The more weight we give, coupled with the more active force of the drop, the faster and louder the bow jumps. I'm going to start adding some weight. I'm going to start throwing the bow with a little more energy, and I'm going to apply a little weight with the index finger. And we start sensing the number of bounces. We can then regulate these bounces to 3 or 4. Let's regulate it to 4. And the key is then to add an up bow at the end of those four notes with a slight supination of that forearm, which we've practiced initially. Up bow gets the bow back to starting position, and this is often where people struggle with ricochet. It's when it recurs in a passage, yet it doesn't work every time, and it's usually because the bow doesn't get back high enough to drop again. So we do 4 plus the up bow, and we make sure at the end of that up bow that we're in a starting position. So there's really an active up bow. We can do 3s or 4s. These are the most common in the repertoire, that combination. Let's have a look now at ricochet arpeggiation. This is the stroke that's famously used in Mendelssohn Concerto at the end of the cadenza. It's also in Paganini's First Caprice, of course. Now, here are some steps that you can take to actually learn this stroke. I remember as a 13-year-old desperately spending all day flicking and throwing my bow on the string, trying to do this stroke, and I just always wish someone could have given me a sequential series of instructions. It's possible to learn it even if you're young with a small bow. The first thing we do is an up bow to just below the middle, and as we do this up bow, we raise the wrist. So that wrist is coming up quite high. We then get to that point in the bow and we flick the wrist down as fast as possible, letting the bow jump. Now, we can take the index finger off the string as we flick allowing that bow to jump uninhibited. And we just let that bow come to rest when it wants. That's the most crucial step, and it might take a while to get that, but persevere, making sure that wrist raises and you really flick it down with a lot of energy. Then do the same, letting the index finger sit on the bow, but not applying any pressure. You then want to regulate to 8 bounces. And then change the bow halfway. We then add a chicken wing movement of the whole arm. So that movement is this, like a chicken wing. And we can practice that just with the bow staying still on the string. So we're going to add that to our 8 bounces with the bow change. Then we try to do 2 in a row and make it continuous. Practicing technique, here bow strokes entirely isolated from music, often yields a beige or generic result, rather than a result that is clearly defined and projected with purpose.